3 spine-chilling true highway tales, unexplained horrors exposed that will haunt you forever. On a haunted autumn night in rural Virginia, the air grew thick and heavy, drear, surrounded by haunted woods, gnarled branches whispering ghostly secrets. Allison gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles pale in the flickering dashboard lights of her beat-up sedan. She was just a mother, navigating life's endless struggles after a grueling shift at the diner. Outside, dark shadows loomed, the winding backroads twisted like a serpent ready to strike. Every bump in the road made her heart race, the solitary landscape echoing tales that chilled her bones. Phantom hitchhikers beckoning from the darkness, vanished souls leaving behind nothing but whispers in the wind. The diner's neon lights painted a vibrant glow that danced through the trees, but it was shut tight. As she drove past, a sudden movement behind the glass yanked her gaze. Her stomach twisted. Was she truly alone? A cold sweat dripped down her back. There was something in there watching her. It wasn't just darkness, it was sinister, something alive waiting to emerge. She pressed the gas, unease crawling up her spine. But then a flash of headlights in her rear-view mirror. Her heart dropped. It was a car she recognized all too well, an old number she cherished from her childhood, Jake's faded blue Chevrolet. Panic surged. Jake was no longer the carefree boy she adored, he was someone lost in shadows deep into a world of crime she couldn't fathom. Her breath quickened. A chill colder than the wind seeped in. Behind her was danger, lurking like a beast ready to pounce. "Stay asleep, honey," she whispered to her daughter in the back seat, praying her little angel would remain oblivious to the chaos creeping closer. The road narrowed, the moonlight casting jagged shadows that twisted and turned, mocking her desperation. Each time she looked back, Jake's headlights grew nearer, menacing, like a predator stalking its prey. Before long, dread enveloped her completely. Up ahead, a police cruiser blocked the road. Blue and red lights flashed, cutting through the night like a pulsating heart. A knot formed in her stomach, a sinking realization as her instincts screamed, "It's a trap." She slammed on the brakes. The world slowed down to a horrifying crawl, and there he was. A twisted smile shadowed beneath the brim of his hat. Jake, or his facade, because this was no longer the friend she knew. His eyes glinted with something malevolent that made her blood run cold. As he approached, his swagger morphed into something terrifying, uniformed, bearing a badge that glimmered mockingly in the moonlight. The shatter of trust echoed in her mind. This wasn't a savior, it was a monster dressed in authority. Every urban legend rushed back betrayal and darkness thriving in places like theirs. The air thickened, oppressive, as fear clawed at her throat. The little voice of the girl in the back seemed to whisper an innocence yet untouched, while the predator in front was something far worse than mere crime. If she complied, where would it lead? If she resisted, would she lose her daughter to that gloomy night? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue with the weight of 1,000 nightmares crashing down upon her. She understood it. Real horror doesn't always lurk in the dark corners. Sometimes, it wore a badge and stood in front of you, shifting reality with one crooked grin. Shadows darted as she wrestled with an escape plan, but then a scream, a child's voice echoing from beyond the trees. Not her daughter, no it couldn't be. Darkness thickened around her as dread clutched her heart. Standing at the brink of a nightmarish reality, something primal ignited within her. Would she plunge into the night or turn back against the horrors looming closer? As the scream pierced through the stillness, Allison felt her world unraveling, knowing one truth: this road may not lead her home after all. Allison's eyes darted between the menacing figure of Jake and the police car blocking her escape. The scream echoed again, high-pitched and desperate, slicing through the oppressive silence. Her heart thundered in her chest, each beat a reminder of the weight of her daughter in the back seat. The child's innocence was a fragile thread, one she would do anything to protect. "Jake," she breathed, trying to steady her voice, but it trembled like the leaves whispering through the trees. "What do you want?" He took a step closer, and the light caught the glint of something sharp tucked into his belt. The badge wasn't about authority anymore, it was a cloak for the monster inside. "I just want to help you, Allison," he said, his voice dripping with false concern. "You shouldn't be out here alone, especially with her." He glanced over his shoulder at the rear of her car. She clenched her fists, fighting the urge to scream. "I'm fine. Just let me go. Please." A grim smile twisted his lips further. "You don't really think I'm here to let you go, do you? This is your last chance to join us. The woods, they're hungry tonight. It's better to be with friends than out there alone." Allison's thoughts scrambled, she was trapped. The child's scream sounded again, and in that moment, a surge of desperation welled up inside her. No! I can't let him take her, but how could she fight? The cruiser loomed like a sentinel of doom. She needed an opening, anything that would allow her to slip away from this nightmare. "Jake, this isn't you," she pleaded, hoping against hope for a glimmer of the boy she used to know. "We were friends once. You can't do this." For a fleeting moment, she saw a flicker in his eyes, a slight hesitation. Maybe there was still some humanity buried in that darkness. And then it vanished. "Friends? You think I still care about that?" Rage bubbled beneath his calm facade. "This place changed me. I had to do what was necessary. And so do you." What was necessary? The question curled around her mind like smoke. Suddenly, the ground shuddered. A low rumble echoed from the trees, growing louder, like a beast awakening from a long slumber. Darkness pooled around Jake, and shadows twisted unnaturally at the edges of her vision. She glanced back at her daughter. The little girl slept with her peaceful expression, unaware that the forces of nightmares encircled them. "Get in the car," Jake ordered, his voice low and feral. "Or you'll wish you had." Panic exploded inside her. The scream had come from deeper in the woods, was it not just a child, but a warning? She couldn't think, her instincts took over. In one swift move, Allison punched the accelerator. The sedan lunged forward, tires screeching against the gravel. Jake lunged, but she was already shifting into a path through the trees. She could see him stumbling, lost in a confusion of rage and surprise. The forest closed in, branches slashing at the windows, the headlights barely piercing the dark. The roar of her engine drowned out reason. Ahead, the twisting road melted into obscurity, but she had to keep driving. There was danger everywhere, yet the road whispered of a way out. With every jarring turn, the presence in the woods grew thicker, as if they were being watched by more than just Jake. Faces flickered at the corners of her vision, ghostly remnants lingering, waiting for someone to falter. Then, another sound pierced through the night, a chorus of childlike laughter, bright and innocent, yet wrong. A sickening curiosity curled around her stomach. What was happening to her? As she drove deeper into the shadows, a growing sense of doom wrapped around her. Was this indeed her escape, or merely leading them into a worse nightmare? All that mattered was survival. But how far could she run before the night bore down on them completely? Allison dropped her head, gripping the wheel tighter. She couldn't turn back now, but the woods were alive around her. What was lurking just outside of sight? What else would she lose before the dawn? The road twisted and became narrower, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Allison's heart raced as flashes of headlights illuminated the dense forest, exposing the trunks like towering giants. The laughter lurked behind her now, a mocking reminder of innocence lost. She risked a glance in the rearview mirror. No sign of Jake, but something else loomed, shadows that twisted unnaturally in the fog, a chorus of unseen eyes watching her every move. The engine sputtered momentarily, a gut-wrenching reminder that even machines could fail when they were most needed. She pressed her foot harder on the gas, willing the car to obey her desperate commands. The relentless thrumming of her pulse echoed in her ears. "Mommy." The soft voice came like an icy finger down her spine. Her daughter stirred in the back seat, the haunting warmth of her presence a bittersweet comfort. "Where are we going?" "Just a little further, honey," Allison croaked, trying to sound brave. The words felt flimsy, as if the night itself could unravel them. "Can you stay quiet for a minute?" The laughter grew again, swirling around them like smoke, teasing her resolution. It wasn't just children's laughter, it was tainted, filled with something sinister. Fear gnawed at her insides. A shimmering light flickered through the trees up ahead, barely perceptible. She focused on it, somehow hopeful, terrified it might be a trap. Could it be a gas station? Or help? She wondered. But as she drew closer, the light morphed into an ethereal glow that made the world seem unreal. The trees bowed towards it, as if in reverence. She couldn't shake the sense that it wasn't just a beacon, it was something alive, something that did not want them to pass. "Mommy!" her daughter squealed. The child's voice struck like a siren, innocent and confused, pulling at her with the weight of dread. "Quiet!" Allison snapped, her grip tightening on the wheel. They had to keep moving, had to escape the madness closing in around them. Suddenly, a family of deer dashed across the road, spooked and frantic. She swerved, narrowly avoiding collision, and in that moment of panic, the glowing light disappeared, devoured by the encroaching night. "Where did it go?" the little girl whined. "It was pretty." "Stay still," Allison shouted, feeling the suffocating grip of panic. They had no time for distractions. Above the hum of the engine, she began to hear something else, soft, rhythmic chanting deep in the woods. The earth vibrated gently, resonating with a chilling promise. "Join us," the whisper wound around her like a vine, coaxing and threatening. Allison gritted her teeth, fighting the pull of the unseen forces. "Stay close, sweetheart." But her daughter shifted, unbuckling her seatbelt, curiosity gleaming in her wide eyes. "Mommy, I want to see." "No. Get back." The child moved faster than she could react, flinging the door wide open. The moment froze as Allison jolted beside her, lungs constricting in fear. The laughter rose again, shrill and echoing, flooding into the car like a toxic mist. Shadows plunged into view, figures draped in the very fabric of the nightmare, their eyes glowing with unearthly hunger, beckoning toward the forest. A surge of helplessness washed over her. "No!" she screamed, lunging for the girl. But as if the woods had conspired, branches whipped against her, scratching her hands, pulling her back. Allison's voice broke, "Come back." As the woods closed in and darkness enveloped them, the familiar weight of her daughter's presence faded, leaving behind only a hollow echo. The forest hushed, and in that eerie silence, a scream erupted nearby, guttural and raw, unlike anything she'd ever heard. Was that another child? She thought, terror seizing her heart. Then the light flickered back, a pulse in the dark, and the insidious chant intensified, pulling at her sanity. What were they asking to join? Would she find her daughter or lose herself to the darkness? In those fleeting moments, confounding choices emerged. The woods craved supplicants, and she was on the brink of making the ultimate sacrifice for salvation. What would she give to escape this torment? With breath stilled by fear, Allison faced uncertainty. Just how deep did the shadows run? Allison felt the weight of the darkness pressing against her chest, thick and suffocating. The once comforting hum of the engine transformed into a sinister growl, mirroring the chaos unraveling inside her mind. The echoes of her daughter's laughter still rang in her ears, a sweet melody turned sour, now tangled in the twisted woods. Her gaze darted back towards the forest, where shadows danced obscenely, beckoning her with tantalizing whispers. A sharp flash of fear clawed through her as a chilling thought settled in her mind. what if the forest had taken her daughter? Lily! She yelled, the name reverberating against the silent trees. The only answer was an unsettling howl, echoing in mocking harmony. Lily! She called again, desperation threading through her voice. Where are you? But the forest seemed to conspire against her, swallowing her pleas whole. In the distance, she could hear the chant again, rhythmic and threatening. Join us! It dripped like venom, and she felt the urge to step out into the gloom, her heart pounding in chaos, each beat tightening her chest. Without thinking, Allison flung open the door and leaped into the shadowy embrace of the woods, each step disintegrating her resolve. The shadows snapped at her heels, pulling at her very soul, urging her forward. Lily! She cried again, panic tightening her throat, dread pooled in her stomach, but the sound of a soft giggle jerked her attention. It was her daughter, light and airy, somewhere deeper in the forest. Mommy! She dashed toward the sound, teeth clenched, stumbling through the underbrush. Just as she felt the coolness of leaves under her fingers, the laughter shifted, the tone altered into something ancient, haunting. It encircled her like a shroud. Catch me! Allison felt a surge of hope, she was so close. Lily! But suddenly, the laughter morphed again, became a cackle, each note gleeful and sinister, puncturing through her heart. Come play with us! As she pushed through the dense thicket, branches clawed at her, snagging her clothes like the hands of spirits trying to pull her back. A searing pain shot through her as a splintered branch punctured her palm, blood mingling with the earth. Mommy! The voice was close, too close. Desperation fueled her resolve as she reached a small clearing. The light returned, casting an otherworldly glow over everything. And there, in the center, stood her daughter. But something was wrong. Lily was surrounded by figures cloaked in darkness, their eyes glistening like loathsome stars. They were entrancing, beckoning to her, their voices overlapping into a symphony of madness. Join us, get away from her! Allison screamed, her heart pounding so hard she feared it might burst. The figures turned their hollow gazes to her, and in that moment, she felt their hunger, cold and insatiable. Join us, they persisted, their words warm and laced with a dreadful promise that tightened around her throat. Allison's mind spiraled into chaos. She fought the urge to move closer, to reach for her daughter, understanding only too keenly that the forest hungered for something. Tension coiled within her, and for a heartbeat, indecision gripped her. Was this the end? Would she lose both her daughter and herself to this malevolent wilderness? Yet, just as fear clutched her, a cry broke through. Mommy! Lily reached for her, and Allison's resolve snapped. I'm coming! She yelled, lurching forward. As she grasped for her daughter, the shadows surged, slithering around her, pulling her downward into the earth as tendrils of darkness snaked around her feet. No! She screamed, fighting against the grip tightening around her, but the words melted away in the cacophony of laughter, spinning threads of insanity that enveloped her senses. The glowing figures danced and swirled around, chanting rhythmically as the forest threatened to consume them both. In that instant of sheer terror, as darkness whispered sweet death in her ear, a new thought struck her. No more surrender. What kind of sacrifice would it take to save her child? The ground trembled beneath her, and she felt her focus shift. It was no longer about escape but about understanding the hunger of the forest. Would she join them, or find a way to break free? In the now familiar cacophony of sinister laughter, one question loomed larger than the shadows. Join us or perish. Allison's choice loomed before her, casting her fate into the void. Would the forest south demands drive her deeper into madness, or give her the strength to fight back? The tendrils tightened, and Allison's heart slammed against her ribcage as the darkness swallowed her scream. Around her, the figures reacted, their hollow eyes blinking slowly, calculating her desperation. This was no ordinary nightmare, the forest was alive with ancient hunger. Mommy! Please! Lily's voice was faint, echoing through a tunnel of despair. Allison's vision blurred. The figures drew nearer, their smiles contorting into grotesque masks of glee. Each crushing beat of the laughter morphed into a feral chant. Join us, join us. What did it mean to join them? Would it cost one life, or many? The night wrapped its claws around her, leaving her breathless. She glanced down. In that moment of terror, she felt the sharp bite of a branch puncturing the skin of her ankle. Pain ricocheted through her, and it ignited a fierce will within. No! She gasped, wrenching her legs free. Not my daughter. In a swift motion, Allison surged forward, her body a collision of raw determination and frantic love. She fought against the shadows, fueled by the echo of Lily's laughter. The trees twisted like specters, branches stretching and curling like fingers desperate to hold her back. Lily stood mere feet away, the glow around her flickering like the heartbeat of a dying star. Those figures were closer now, whispering sweetly, almost tenderly, join us. Desperation turned to defiance. If I'm to fight, let it be in plain sight. With every ounce of strength, she willed her body to move, conjuring a scream that clawed from her gut. I want to let you take her. For a heartbeat, silence fell heavy, baited like a breath holding tight. The figures recoiled. Their eyes widened, momentarily losing their haunting allure. In that strange lull, Allison reached forward, grabbing for Lily's hand. Mommy! But just as their fingers touched, everything shattered. The ground beneath them trembled violently. The figures screamed, a cacophony that resonated with the anguished groans of the earth. The shadowy shapes twisted and writhed, retreating in tandem with the very fabric of the forest seeming to revolt against them. Run! Allison yelled, holding Lily's hand tight. They bolted, hearts pounding in unison, the forest shifting as if it were alive with rage. Branches lashed out with ferocious intent, snagging at their clothes, slick with the dampness of the earth. Shadows encircled them. Join us, they sang in a mournful wail, now desperate and insistent. Suddenly, a path opened up, the trees leaning aside like reluctant sentinels, and before them shimmered a doorway of light. However, in that sliver of hope, fear coiled tightly within her. What awaited them on the other side? Would it be freedom, or merely another trap set by the forest's insatiable hunger? In a final surge, they made for the light, the haunting cries of the cloaked figures clawing at their backs. Don't look back, no matter what. Allison urged, but the whispers grew louder, intoxicating her senses, tugging at her will. Just as they reached the threshold, the shadows surged with fury, entwining around her ankles, threatening to pull her back. Mommy, I can't. Lily cried, her little fingers slipping from Allison's grasp. Time stopped, stretching infinitely as hope and dread collided. Would she save her daughter, or would they both pay the price? With one last primal scream, Allison summoned the strength of every desperate mother before her. We will not join you. And then the light enveloped them. In that blinding moment, the world twisted. Not all was certain in the harsh light. The shadows shrieked in unison. What waited for them beyond that shimmering portal? As the darkness lingered, a new voice rippled through the air, soft and sinister. Join us, or face the true wrath of the forest. Allison's heart raced faster, conflicting emotions battling within. She had entered, but what had they escaped to? Would they be forever haunted by what they were leaving behind? The terror was just beginning. The blinding light faded, replaced by an unsettling twilight that cloaked their new surroundings. Allison stumbled to the ground, the air thick with a damp, musty scent that clung to her lungs. Lily's frightened whimpers pierced through the haze, forcing Allison to lift her head and search for her daughter amidst the shadows. Lily! She called out, her voice shaking. The girl's small figure emerged from the gloom, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mommy! I was scared. Allison pulled her close, relief flooding through her even as dread draped over them, heavy and suffocating. They were no longer in the forest, but a different place altogether. The trees around them twisted in grotesque forms, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands trying to grasp at life. The ground was soft, almost flesh-like, pulsing with an unsettling rhythm as if they were standing on a living organism. What is this place?" Allison gasped, surveying the unnatural landscape. The horizon was obscured by a thick, swirling mist, and distorted echoes of laughter bounced off the trees, surrounding them like an unseen swarm. "Mommy, I want to go home," Lily whimpered, and in that moment, every fiber of Allison's being strained against the potent fear gripping her heart. "Me too, baby. We'll find a way out." But as she spoke, shadows crept closer, merging with the mist, their hollow eyes flaring with malicious intent. The whispers surged again, rising and falling like a sinister tide. Stay with us," each word felt like a claw tearing at her sanity. Allison clutched Lily tighter, feeling her daughter's small hands shaking against her. "We need to keep moving," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. They forged ahead, navigating the bizarre scenery that twisted grotesquely around them. Scattered among the thick mist were remnants of structures, cracked tombstones, rusted playground equipment, and lifeless swing sets that creaked eerily in the stale air. "What is that?" Lily pointed to a shadowy figure looming in the distance. Allison squinted, her heart hammering as the figure grew clearer. It resembled a tall, dark human form, yet it lacked any discernible features. Just as they were about to turn away, another figure appeared beside it, then another and another, until they formed a ring around the two of them, their vacant stares boring into Allison's soul, the whispers crescendoing into a frantic, dissonant song. Join us," Allison backed away, pulling Lily protectively in front of her. "No. Don't come any closer." The figures paused, cocking their heads as if to question her command. "Join us, free yourself, Lily, listen to me. We can't join them. We have to fight." She felt the weight of the moment pressing against her, the temptation to surrender saturating the air. But the horrific portrayal of what lay ahead ignited the fury she needed. With a sudden burst of courage, Allison let out a primal scream, cutting through the sinister symphony. "We want to join you." The figures recoiled, their edges wavering, their expressions shifting into something more grotesque, a blend of rage and despair. From the depths of the mist, a chilling wind swept through, rattling the shadows. "You will regret this," the forest remembers. Allison's breath caught in her throat. The ground beneath them began to shake violently, and she sensed the pulse of the living earth beneath their feet. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, her grip tightening. The surrounding figures advanced, moving with unnatural speed. Uncertainty festered in Allison's mind. Would their defiance add fuel to the forest's rage? "What have we done?" The words slipped from her lips as they tumbled backwards, searching for a way out of this wretched place that seemed determined to consume them. But the darkness was closing in, and the shadows around them whispered promises of despair, intertwining with an urging chant that echoed the forest's relentless hunger. Join us," as the figures lunged forward, pure terror ignited within Allison. With one final push, they bolted into the thickening mist. Where? Would they run? What would they find? And what price would they pay for their defiance? As they raced deeper into the heart of this nightmarish landscape, something sinister lingered in the air behind them, pulling relentlessly towards their terrified hearts. Would escape be the only answer, or had they unwittingly sealed their fate? The mist seemed alive, swirling around them like a hunting beast. Each step Allison took squelched against the pulsating ground, a flesh-like surface that seemed to breathe beneath her. She felt Lily's small body shaking as the shadows encircled them more tightly, their hollow eyes glowing like embers in the thick, oppressive darkness. "Keep moving, sweetheart," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. But fear wrapped its icy fingers around her heart, squeezing hard. The whispers intensified, becoming a frenzied chorus urging them to succumb, to join the shadowy figures in their timeless waltz of despair. "Mommy, what do they want?" Lily's voice trembled, and Allison could hear the panic rising. Allison didn't have an answer. Every instinct screamed for survival, yet the allure of safety and surrender beckoned just as powerfully. They want to trap us, she finally managed. Whatever they are, they're not real. We just have to keep running. But as they stumbled through the dense fog, the figures began to shift and morph, appearing as lost souls like Allison and Lily, young ones, old ones, faces twisted in pain or twisted into malevolent grins. They reached out with skeletal fingers, despair woven into their very being. "Let us take you home, join us," they crooned, their voices echoing oddly, harmonizing into something sinister yet sweet. "No!" Allison shouted, clutching Lily's hand tighter as they surged forward. Their breaths were quick and desperate, and a primal fear coursed through her veins. She caught glimpses of playgrounds and streets, familiar yet distorted. Where did they belong? Were they trapped in memories long since forgotten? Suddenly, the ground jolted violently beneath their feet, sending them sprawling. A deep rumble resonated around them, almost like a growl. "You cannot escape," the whispers warned, more urgent now, more alive. "You cannot resist the call." Allison dragged Lily up, but her legs felt heavy as if they were sinking further into the flesh-like ground. With every second, the thick fog grew denser, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her voice cutting through the sea of despair. There was something wrong, something that sent a cold wave of realization crashing over Allison. "Mommy, look!" Turning, Allison followed Lily's point toward the far end of the clearing, where the shadows possessed a strange flicker of light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Against all her instincts, it tugged at something deep within her, some thread of hope mingled with terror. "We have to go there," she said, almost breathless, but the air soured, the shadows recoiled at the mention of the light, their whispers turning to furious shrieks. "You will not find solace. Turn back. Turn back." Allison felt the pulse beneath her feet intensifying, the ground trembling again with a raw, unsettling force. They pushed forward, sprinting towards that beckoning glow while the figures lunged at them, their hollow eyes now filled with rage. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the frantic whispers. She needed to reach that light. It had to be a way out. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily pleaded, her small voice barely a whisper against the chaos. "Stay close, Lily. Don't look back." But they could hear the voices, the shadows seething behind them, brushing against their backs with icy fingers. "You were warned," they echoed, a promise wrapped in threat. Just yards from the light, Allison felt a lurch in her stomach. The moment stretched out, caught between the pulse of the ground and the desperate glow ahead. She could see figures beginning to break away, reforming, reaching for her with even more determination. "Mommy!" And then the light flickered one last time before it vanished, swallowed by the swirling night, leaving them in the cold grasp of the mist. The walls of shadows closed in, and whispers filled her ears, terrifying promises, gut-wrenching betrayals. "Join us, your time has come." Despair washed over Allison, and she gripped Lily's hand tighter. What lay ahead was dark and unknown, but was it worse than what pursued them? Now? They braced for the inevitable, but at that moment, a scream pierced the air. Not just any scream, a voice hauntingly familiar. "Mom!" Allison felt her heart drop. As the shadows loomed closer, she turned to Lily, terror flooding her face. What was that? And the ground trembled again, unwilling to let them go. The true nightmare was just beginning. The ground convulsed beneath them, and the mist swirled violently, swallowing the last remnants of light. Allison blinked through fear-fogged eyes, her heart racing like a freight train. "We have to go," she yelled, pulling Lily along as if the darkness itself were trying to drag them back. But the echoes of that familiar voice twisted around them, a ghostly melody that wrapped itself tightly around her mind. "Mom!" The scream, filled with pain, belonged to someone she couldn't place, yet it brought forth an urge to turn back, to search the shadows. "No!" She squeezed Lily's hand tighter, her nails digging into the soft skin, a reminder that they were alive. "We have to keep moving." The shadows moved with them, a dark tide that fluctuated, rising and falling in anticipation. Murmurs became a raging storm, clawing at her sanity, urging her to abandon her child, to give in and rest. Each gust of air carried chilling whispers, "Leave her, join us, there is peace." "Mommy, I don't want to die." Lily's small voice broke through the chaos. It struck Allison like a slap, awakening a fierce protectiveness within her. "Neither do I. I want to let them take you," she vowed fiercely, each word propelled by her desperation, but the figures in the mist were relentless, shifting into threats, embodying the very essence of her worst fears. They morphed into distorted shapes of loved ones, friends, family, people who had faded into memories. Allison one called, a haunting echo of a voice she hadn't heard in years. "Come home." Each pulse of the mist resonated with their collective misery, and she felt Lily cling tighter, her small fingers trembling. A streak of anger flared within Allison as she pushed back against the darkness threatening to envelop them. "No. You're not real. You can't take us." But even she wasn't sure if she believed it anymore. A figure lunged at them, too quick, too monstrous, a face twisted in agony, eyes glistening with malice. It reached for Lily, fingers like gnarled branches. Time slowed as horror surged through Allison's veins. "Lily! Run!" she screamed, shoving her daughter forward. The mist thickened, clawing at their ankles, but they stumbled on. Each step weighed heavy, as if reality itself conspired to keep them from escaping. The whispers weaved together, a thick, choking fog of despair. "You cannot outrun us, you belong here." But still, they ran, pushing through enduring panic. Shadows gathered on all sides, the air thick with dread. From behind, laughter echoed, a sick, twisted laughter that seemed to crash against the very foundations of hope. Just as they surged through a thicket of darkness, another scream sliced through the damp air, a frightening blend of agony and despair. It wasn't distant, it was close but not warrior-like. It was small, like Lily. "Mom! I can't find you." Allison's heart plummeted. "Lily!" In a head-spinning moment, Allison felt the ground pull away from her feet, the flesh-like surface beneath becoming an abyss. She could barely breathe. "Lily!" she shouted again, more frantic this time. The mist pulled them apart like a riptide, the shadows closing in. Hands reached for her, whispering, "Leave her, she's mine." "No!" Allison roared, plunging deeper into the fog, adrenaline clawing at her senses, each second a fight against encroaching doom. In a heartbeat, the shadows shifted, and she caught a glimpse of her daughter swallowed whole. Despair tangled in her gut, the scene morphing before her eyes, confusion crashing over her like a wave. "Mom! Please!" And then silence fell, a heavy, dreadful silence that pressed down, dulling even the darkness. Where was the mist? Where was Lily? Allison's breath caught in her throat. The shift in chaos stunned her. "Lily!" she cried out, her voice cracking, knowing something had changed, but what? In that eerie stillness, she felt something shift, the shadows pulling away, revealing a cracked path ahead, a road. But where did it lead? And what horrors lay waiting? Her heart raced as fear coiled tight once again. She took a tentative step toward the path, her instinct screaming for her to flee. But within the silence, she knew the real question: could she face what lay ahead without losing everything? A cold wind rippled through the air, and she stood at the threshold of darkness once more. Would she turn back, or follow the last whispers of that shimmering hope? The choice was hanging, precarious and threatening, and she had to make it fast before the shadows returned. Allison's breath hitched as she stood at the edge of the cracked path, the weight of the decision pressing against her chest like a vice. The shadows still loomed, eager to engulf her again, but the brief reprieve from the chaos felt almost cruel. "Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling. She could still hear the echoes of her daughter's cries, ringing in her ears like the toll of a death bell. The shadows shrank back, but they were watching, waiting. Allison took a shaky step forward, forcing herself to focus on the path ahead. It twisted like a snake, a long stretch that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Cobwebbed memories clawed at her like foreboding fingers, reminding her of what she left behind. The path was lined with pale, skeletal trees that stretched towards the sky, their branches resembling grasping hands, ready to snatch her at the first misstep. Then the whispering returned, laced with a sinister delight. "Follow us, Allison. Join us." Each word resonated with a haunting familiarity, and moments slipped through her mind, nights spent cradling her daughter, laughter shared over ice cream, the warmth of family around a dinner table. She shuddered, images turned grotesque by the shadows, warping until they no longer felt like memories but nightmares. With every step, a loose stone skidded underfoot, echoing through the stillness. She hesitated, gripping her aching sides. Allison clenched her jaw, forcing herself onward even as doubt gnawed at her resolve. If Lily was anywhere, she had to be on this path. For every step she took toward the unknown, she vowed to bring her daughter peace and safety. The air thickened, smelling of damp earth and rotting leaves. Then she saw it, emerging from the fog, a figure. It flickered between flesh and shadow, a ghastly distortion of a person she used to know. "Help me," the voice moaned, twisted but familiar. Allison's breath quickened. "No. You're not real." The horror lashed against her again, its cold fingers reaching. She had to ignore it, had to fight. Instead, she pressed forward, her heart pounding, desperate to find Lily. Then she heard it, a soft giggle, dragging through the air like a ghostly lullaby. "Mommy?" Allison froze. "Lily." The word tore from her throat, raw and frantic. Her pulse hammered, drowning out the whispers. She spun around, searching, hoping, dreading. "Over here." The giggle faded, replaced by an echoing call that bounced from the trees, mischievous and light but tinged with something darker, something promising doom. Her feet moved before her mind could catch up. She dashed down the path, branches snapping in her wake. Was it a trick? Was it another shadow seeking to ensnare her? Yet a part of her, a desperate, hopeful part, still believed. Lily's cries grew louder, twisting into a symphony of despair, dragging Allison deeper into the shadows. "Mommy, please." Suddenly, the ground bucked beneath her. The path fragmented, cracks shooting out like spider webs, trembling under her weight. She gasped in horror, grasping at the air. "No!" With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, propelled by the sound of Lily's fading voice. The ground split open, swallowing the echoes into oblivion. As she launched into the growing chasm, everything spun, darkness enveloped her entirely, and the air seemed to thicken like an iron cloak. Would she find her daughter, or would the abyss consume them both? In that moment of freefall, Allison screamed, the sound mingling with the laughter of shadows. "A choice lies ahead, dear Allison. Will you embrace the dark or dance with the light?" The words coiled around her like a noose, heavy with dread. Whatever ghastly game awaited her, the outcome was yet to unfold. The path had been chosen, but the destination? It remained shrouded in a terror greater than anything she could ever imagine. Allison's scream echoed through the void, a desperate plea swallowed by the thick darkness consuming her. As shadows twisted and coiled around her, she felt the weight of dread pressing heavy against her chest. Time stretched, bending under the shock of her surroundings. Where was Lily? The familiar giggle danced in the corners of her mind, teasing her, a bittersweet memory now wrapped in despair. Suddenly, the darkness flickered as if responding to her anguish. The void brightened, a flash of blinding light bursting forth like a phoenix from the ashes. Allison found herself standing on a thin path again, the air charged with energy, thick and alive, pulsating around her like the heartbeat of the universe itself. "Mommy." Lily's voice rang out, high and sweet but strained, echoing like a siren in the night. Instinct fueled her, and with newfound strength, Allison shot forward. "Lily. Where are you?" The shadows that had haunted her melted away, revealing a clearing that glowed with an ethereal light. The world shifted around her, and there stood her daughter, illuminated by an almost heavenly glow. But darkness lurked at the edges of the clearing. Specters waited, their hollow eyes gleaming, whispers growing louder, join us no. Allison shouted, a fire igniting deep within her. You will not take her. The figures hissed, recoiling as if she spat venom. Allison rushed towards Lily, heart racing, the warmth of her daughter's presence radiating. I'm here, baby. I'm not leaving without you. As they embraced, a surge of hope cascaded through them, piercing through the weight of despair. The shadows recoiled further, the warmth of the love between mother and daughter pushing against their coldness. Mommy, I was scared. Lily's small voice trembled against Allison's chest. I know, honey. But we're together. That's all that matters. Yet a flicker of doubt remained. The whispers swirled again, clingy and deceptive. You'll still join us eventually, they assured her with silky malice, wrapping around their minds like smoke. No! Allison shouted, steeling herself. She wouldn't fall victim to despair again. We choose light. We choose love. Stay back. The ground trembled beneath them, the very fabric of the night flexing, resisting. The shadows howled, angry now, their whispers morphing into a cacophony of rage. But Allison felt the pull of the light surrounding them, a beacon calling them to safety. Mommy, what do we do? Lily's eyes shimmered with fear. We run. Allison took Lily's hand firmly, feeling the warmth and pulse of her daughter's tiny fingers. Together, they bolted toward the shimmering doorway of light that pulsed at the edge of the clearing. The shadows shrieked behind them, fury unleashed in guttural howls that grated against the mind. You cannot escape your fate. But Allison pressed onward, refusing to look back. With every pounding step, she felt the darkness shatter, fragments of despair disintegrating in the face of determination. Faster, Lily. They reached the threshold, light cascading around them. This is our moment. Then, as if the universe held its breath, she pulled Lily through the gateway, leaping into the brilliance. The moment they crossed, shadows clawed at their ankles but met only resistance from the love they shared. A rush of blinding white enveloped them, and just like that, the nightmare dissolved into the warmth of dawn. The sun peeked over the horizon, bathing the world in golden hues. They stumbled into a meadow, the wildflowers dancing in a gentle breeze. Allison collapsed to her knees, breathless but alive. We did it, Lily. Gaze tearing through tears, she swept her daughter into a fierce embrace. Lily sniffled, bewildered and exhausted but safe. Mommy, we're okay? Yes, we're okay. Joy and relief crashed over Allison like a tidal wave. The grip of darkness had been broken. They were free, but as the mist faded behind them, a low rumble echoed through the meadow, a reminder. Allison, you escaped today, but the forest remembers, a distant whisper crooned, chilling her to the bone. We'll be ready next time. Allison muttered defiantly, kneeling there with Lily, determined to keep the horrors at bay. In that beautiful morning light, they began to walk home, hand in hand, stepping away from the shadows and toward the promise of a new day, but the wild woods would still watch, waiting patiently, for the moment she'd forget when the darkness would whisper her name once more. So here's the call: don't let the darkness consume you. Make sure to subscribe immediately and don't miss exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed that algorithm and keep the frightful tales coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. And share this video with at least 5 friends who dare to face the shadows together. This is the moment to show your support. We can't do this without you. Don't wait even one more second to be part of the adventure.